Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Once a DJ. If you'd like to support the show, then head to onceadj.com/support to find out how you can help. If you'd like to get in touch with any feedback or suggestions, email onceadjpodcast@gmail.com. Once a DJ is produced by the good people at Remote Control. If you'd like to find out more about working with them, head to remote-ctrl.co.uk. Time for the show. Once a DJ is brought to you with the support of Vinyl Underground Record Store. Since 1993, VU has been shipping new and used underground house, techno, disco, hip-hop, soul and more worldwide from Northampton in the UK. They're your go-to store for upfront releases, repressed classics and deep digging for undiscovered gems. And they're a great crew to deal with who really care about the music and their customers. To show the support to the Once a DJ community, they're giving you 10% off your next order. Just head to vinylunderground.co.uk and use the code ONCEADJ10 at checkout. You also get free UK delivery on all orders over £100. That's ONCEADJ10 at vinylunderground.co.uk. Hey, thanks for tuning into the show. This episode gets into a lot of stuff about mental health, wellness, self-care and more. I sometimes get labelled as a bit of a Grinch for my views on Christmas, but as much as it's loaded with excitement and good times for many, I'm always aware that it's a really lonely time for others. I know you hear this pretty much everywhere these days, but it's super important to reach out to people if you're struggling mentally or emotionally. If there's people in your life you feel like you can talk to, then please do, but if not, there are organisations like Samaritans, Mind, and another place that Brandon mentioned, which I wasn't aware of, is the Hub of Hope, and they're all a quick Google away. I hope you enjoy this conversation with one of the UK's biggest DJs of the superstar era, someone who's done way too much for us to list it all, and nowadays gives a lot of time back to helping others, Mr. Brandon Block. Let's go. Brandon Block, thanks for coming on the podcast. How are you doing today?
Pleasure, Av. Nice to see you. I'm sorry it's taken so long to get this little get together going, but we got there in the end.
That's fine, mate. You're Brandon Block. You're far busier than I am.
Actually, mate, I'm probably not at the moment, which is nice, but I get what you're saying, yes, but no, I'm not.
You've just come back from doing a retreat, haven't you?
Well, yeah, we did that. That was in October. One of the most profound, incredible experiences. Although I was running it, I also myself had a moment, let's say, of how would I say it? An emotional awakening. A journey happened while I doing a breathing exercise, which, you know, I've had experiences before of transcending sort of thing or being in the moment. And this was quite a profound experience, you know, like being, it's very rare that you can, I mean, it's not now. A lot of people have got a lot of skills around getting into the present moment and being, you know, thinking about what's happening or thinking about what's going to happen or thinking about stuff in the past. Being in that moment and being clear of anxiety and fear and stress, whatever you want to call it, adrenaline, any of the hormones that, you know, you release with day-to-day life, and just being you is very rare, but you know, great experience. The retreat, all the lads had a fantastic time, all had incredible emotional breakthroughs, spiritual breakthroughs, really, like, you know, a lot of people have never done something like that before. You're sharing openly, sharing trauma that you just thought, wow, I never would have thought this person, you know, we all make judgments based on what we think we know or based on what we see or what we hear. And yet the truth of the matter is that we all have stuff that has happened to us in our past, all of us, you know.
100%.
There's never been, you know, no one's past has been ideally perfect. I just won't believe anyone who says that. So, you know, and how we deal with those traumas moving forward is, you know, tough. I mean, look, the good thing about nowadays is in the modern world, although there's a lot of things I don't like, there's a lot of things that are good, like the the availability of information, i.e., this sort of stuff, mental well-being, physical well-being, emotional well-being, all these, these coaches, practitioners, whatever. A lot of people out there have this human condition awakening, but for me, I like to help people just because I like to help people. I have been through, I don't like charging for it. I think it's, it becomes, it doesn't sit with my ethics, let's say.
Now, I think that's really interesting because I was having a similar conversation with a hypnotherapist earlier today who was saying the same thing. And my kind of counterpoint to that was where you run a risk with that is that I think you'll probably be someone who thinks that time is more valuable than money, I would guess. Brandon, can you give me an hour of your time, or Brandon, can you give me 20 quid?
Yeah, no, but yeah, yes, okay. I would probably feel better doing an hour of my time as opposed to, I don't mind there's someone 20 quid. That's not the issue. It's not about the money. It's about the.
I think what I'm trying to say though is that I think if you don't charge, what there's a slight danger of is that other people might not appreciate your time.
I get all that. I get that. I get the accountability. And if you don't charge, I mean, look, I've got a friend who's been coaching me with my diet and my sort of gym workout, but he lives in Switzerland and he's one of the old dream boys. And I met him in Ibiza 30 years ago and we had a bit of a session. We've been friends ever since, but we never saw each other. All of a sudden, funny enough, he's from like Birmingham area, Leicester. I was in my local petrol garage where I lived in northwest London, and there he is, filling up his car. Turns out he'd moved in around the corner. But, he lives in Sweden now, so I don't see him. But he's been coaching me online. He's a keto trainer. He's 55 and he's ripped like you've never, 2% body fat. He's been doing it for years. But I said, right, I'm finally ready to take the plunge and have a go with you coaching me. He said, I'm going to charge you because you won't be accountable if I don't. It'll be like, well, I'm not paying for it, so I'll just take it or leave it. And, I've stuck to the program for 3 months. I've lost 10 kilos. I'm putting more weight on when I'm doing weight training.
Yeah.
I feel wholeheartedly better. It's an achievement, another goal sort of, I suppose, achieved, something I wanted to do. I've procrastinated about using weight for a long time, but more recently it just got painful again because I got a bad hip. And, I went up to 95 kilos. For me, it's a heavy weight.
Yeah. It's
a lot of weight around my stomach and, so I've lost 10 kilos, which is 2 stone. It's not coming off as quick now. And like most humans, we want it to happen now. Instant gratification is always the key, which is why we go to substances and stuff, which works quickly.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm digressing a bit. I get what you're saying. It's just for me that, I got my help, let's say, for free back in the day. And I think it's not totally true. I ask for a token now.
Yeah.
I say, look, I need, you pay for me 10 sessions or whatever. Obviously the first one, we'll have an assessment, see if you want to work together, see if there's anything. I mean, generally what happens is, and I've found it recently, is that I've said to a friend of mine who contacted me about, drugs, drink, whatever else it is, their thinking changes, behavior changes. I said, look, we'll have a chat. I'll give you some pointers. Tell me if it works, if it doesn't. And then you can sign up if you want 10 sessions, 5 sessions, whatever it is. And invariably what's happened is they've said, oh, I've had a great week. I've had nothing. I'm all right, blah, blah, blah. And I guarantee you in a month's time, they'll be back going, oh.
Yeah. So we've gone in pretty deep there on kind of what life and work looks like for Brandon Block in 2023. If people are familiar with the sort of mid-90s, let's say version of you, for lack of a better word, it might be a little bit confusing to them. So let's go to the start of your story if we can, and just kind of look at what your arc is and what's brought you to where you are today, if that's cool.
Absolutely, mate.
Let's start with DJing then.
Okay.
So I've read a bit, and as I mentioned before, I don't want to labour on this. You know, you've got your book out. There's a load of information about it, but it'd be really nice to go in on some key sort of touch points.
So the book came out in 2011. It's quite old now. And none of this stuff I've just talked about is in there.
Yeah.
Which I'm considering writing some extra chapters or a new smaller version with a new title called In Between the Lines, because the first one was called The Life and Lines of Brandon Block, which was quite apt at the time. Well, not at the time, but it was quite apt for what I was describing.
Yeah.
So my book came out in 2011. Again, it's a sort of a diary of clubland and my behaviours back then. So for those who don't know, I was very fortunate to be. I've always been a DJ. I think before Acid House, let's say.
It was Rare Groove, wasn't it?
Rare Groove, soul, funk, hip hop. I'm doing a lot of those soul parties again now, which I love. Local disco. My best mate Ali, we were partners in the DJ. We bought our bit of kit. We travelled London doing various gigs everywhere, pretty much like much of the other DJs back in the day. No Technics decks because they weren't around then. As soon as they come, though, we got them. And, I suppose that's progression from pubs to nightclubs to,
And you promoted, didn't you, in the early days? Let me just consult my notes.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say we were promoters as such. Well, maybe we had, well, actually tell a lie. I was part of opening the Fly Records, which was Charlie Chester, for those of you who know. Fly was a very big record label back in the day. Also Club Night, which myself, Dean Thatcher, another great sort of Northern Soul DJ, started. We did promote a couple of nights. Myself and Dean went to another Sunday afternoon session called Thirst. That was at Haven Stables in Ealing. I also went to promote a Sunday night, very famous Sunday night in London called Foo Bar, which obviously means fucked up beyond all recognition, which we mostly were at that time, with my very good friend Lisa Loud. We promoted that club there, which became very popular. We used to queues down the road every Sunday night. Basically, that was like the continuation of the week or the weekend, let's say, and then the start of the next week. So, yes, promoted. But then alongside that, I mean, I went to Ibiza in that time in 1990 with Alex P, with actually my best mate, Bagging, God rest his soul. I'd met Alex like a couple of years previous. We'd played together. We hit it off. We didn't see each other a lot after that until I went to Ibiza, and I got a message through various channels saying Alex is here on the island somewhere, spending time at the pleasure of the Guardia Civil, I think it was. Saying, can you meet him at Space tomorrow morning or whatever it was? He wanted you to come and DJ with him at his club. And I went, yeah. So there was a night that had ensued before that, which was a bit involved. And Alex had actually nicked a bus full of passengers to drive home from Pasha because he lost his lift or couldn't find the cab. So he jumped on the passenger bus and drove it full of people, obviously not stopping at any of the stops. That you can picture that, people's eyes flick past the train station when you're going really fast.
Yeah.
Trying to catch, that's them looking for their stops, ringing the bell, going, oh, he missed my stop. On the back of that, he got arrested and he turned up at my place first thing in the morning, worse for wear, swearing and shouting, and then said, I'll meet you at Space tomorrow, and disappeared again. So the next morning, after a great night out, we went to Space, took all my records, and as far as that goes, that was the first day I DJ'd at Space with Alex, and that was the first day I got Pepe Rosilio, the owner, said, right, I'm going to employ you now and put you on the books.
So when was that? 90?
91.
So you were there early then, really, in terms of the... Yeah.
I went in 1990 with Charlie Chester to organise the short film about chilling, the documentary that we made. He then took back a load of DJs, Primal Scream and blah, blah, blah. And then missed out on going back with him because for some reason, anyway, that's another story. But yeah, and then it went back with Alex, and the rest is history about the Space Terrors. It was
Was there a lot of other DJs from the London scene then going over, or just you guys?
well, no, at that particular time. Obviously, there had been Danny Raplin, Paul Oakenfold, Trevor Funk, Johnny Walker, and Nicky Holloway had been in 87, 86, 87, Nancy Noise, and they brought that back, that sound, the Balearic sound with the clubs, the Spectrum. The Trip story, which is Nicky's club, and then there was Spectrum with Trevor Fung, Colin Hudd, Paul Oakenfold, and then obviously Danny started Shum. And these all clubs at the back of that sort of Ibiza experience, let's say. But then myself, I moved out there for the year in Ibiza, 91. I went for the whole summer. But there was no one else DJing out there as such from the club scene, let's say in London, myself and Alex. There was DJs who were obviously doing the local bars, but it weren't clubs. It wasn't the club stuff.
Yeah.
So basically, me and Alex were playing in Space, but then on top of that, we was getting asked by all the other clubs because Space was so successful. Every other club, Amnesia, we played Amnesia, had a residency there on a Tuesday. We had a residency at Paradise, had a residency at Space, obviously had a residency at Pasha at Monday nights, had a residency at Coup on a Thursday night. So we was doing every night of the week, basically. And that led to partying hard.
How old would you have been at this time then?
God, you know what? I can't even work it out. 26, is that all right? 26.
Because you got to have some energy to party like that.
24.
So basically, you were young enough to have the energy to do that.
Oh yeah, million percent.
Was it all like acid house and stuff you were playing, or was there scope to play soul and funk and stuff like that?
Well, no. Back then, obviously, we was playing more acid house, but then in Space, we played sort of a bit of everything. Really, it was very eclectic. It was a bit like I suppose you could call it the Balearic sound. We championed cross-section records, but because of Space being such a multicultural, incredible club, we used to meet DJs from, and it was very soon after Space was done, but all the DJs from the rest of the world came. We had DJs from Germany, from Belgium, from France, from Italy, and they were all big communities there at that time, but in their own little right. So they all had an experience of like clubland at that time. And so fortunately, we got to meet all these wonderful people, these great DJs, all these fantastic different types of music which was coming in. They were all making their own versions of sort of like house music. So the Germans were very into like their but Belgium was like new beat. Also, the mainland Spanish had a sound called Bacalao, which is really tough house, like techno, old days. The Italians were big into their disco sample tracks. The Germans were into their sort of techno-y, get that. So I suppose early days of trance and techno. It wasn't so noisy, but it was really cool. Obviously, the Americans were into their deep house and acid house. So there was all this wonderful music, all these wonderful people. We met every one of them, and we made friends with every one of them. And they all asked to come and play on the Space Terrace. So we used to let them come and DJ. Sasha, Dickweed, Morale, all early days. I mean, just to mention a few, but there were so many more. Mark Spoon from Stella and Spoon, West Bam, so many. German, Dorian Graves. There was Dorian Graves, sorry, it's in the club in Germany. Loads and loads of DJs, all different places in Europe. Chico Secchi, obviously Daniel Devoni from Black Box used to come and play. He used to play a lot there. It was very fortunate, very lovely days.
Yeah. So you were like really, really ingrained at kind of the dawn of the superstar DJ then, right?
Yeah, and you know what? You're not. So many people say that. I suppose, yes. I never thought of it like that, but I suppose, yes, we were. DJ became a really big part of life soon after. I think it was to think the impact of the clubbing days that everyone had. That whole clubbing thing was so well thought of at the time that the DJs playing the music were like, I suppose, we became famous. So I suppose superstar DJs were what we are. Yeah.
Once a DJ is brought to you with the support of Vinyl Underground Record Store. Since 1993, VU has been shipping new and used underground house, techno, disco, hip-hop, soul and more worldwide from Northampton in the UK. They're your go-to store for upfront releases, repressed classics and deep digging for undiscovered gems. And they're a great crew to deal with who really care about the music and their customers. To show the support to the Want to DJ community, they're giving you 10% off your next order. Just head to vinylunderground.co.uk and use the code ONCEADJ10 at checkout. You also get free UK delivery on all orders over £100. That's ONCEADJ10 at vinylunderground.co.uk. I wanted to create a product for the listeners to be able to support the show and for the guests as a token of gratitude for being on, so I've teamed up with Sure Shot Shop to create some Once a DJ 45 RPM adapter clamps. These are my weapon of choice as a 45 adapter as they add stability and grip to aid you in any setup. These are available for £25 each plus flat fee postage from onceadj.bigcartel.com, and if you'd like to see the other models you can buy and also customise, check out sureshotshop.com. Yeah, so when you came back did you come straight back to England after that summer then?
I came back to England every winter for sort of October to as soon as I can get out to Ibiza again. But by this time, what had also happened with my success as a DJ is my drug habit had got into realms of ridiculousness. And obviously the constant partying and the constant being out and constant, hedonism, music, clubbing, whatever, it's taken its toll. Because not only was you just partying all through summer, partying all through winter as well, because obviously club scene had just taken off it spread like wildfire, around the world. Every night was a club night. I remember in '88 going out every night of the week to very small clubs, and it carried on like that since I can remember. And then, my habit spiraled into the realms of unwellness and just stupidity, really.
Did you see that happening at the time? Was it something where you're like, I know this is getting worse, or are you just totally oblivious?
There was a moment, and I thought, I know I have a problem now. I know I can't stop this on my own, but I'm not ready to stop. And in all honesty, my thinking was, if I keel over doing this, then I'm all right doing it. I was ready to go because I obviously, what's known to me now is I obviously had a lot of underlying trauma, which I attribute to that attitude of, well, look, if I die, I die. I'm not bothered, type thing. But obviously, I was bothered because I was very ill. I had many illnesses at that time, which had caught through my my partying, let's say, and I wasn't dying quick enough. I was in too much pain daily. And the drugs weren't masking the pain anymore. Doesn't matter how much I took. I was taking obscene amounts of drugs. It still wasn't masking the pain because I was so ill physically.
Were there people around you that were trying to kind of help you clean up and control, or were you around people that were?
But don't forget that you're asking me about cleaning up. This is 1996. This is not a time when people knew about stuff like that. This is people weren't aware of it. People weren't, if you said drug addiction, they'd go, "What's that?" We wear that. It's only when you go to an AA or a CA meeting, you know about addicts, let's say. It's an old word and a great label I don't like, but that whole sort of stigmatized, private, or don't say anything environment is where you end up. And that's the only place available to you. No other. Whereas now we have many models of getting better, many models of thinking, of discovering how our brain works, how to manage trauma, how to deal with trauma, therapies, therapists by the dozen who are all great at doing that work. And, slowly humanity is starting to realize that we need connectivity. We can get help from our fellow human, and we can get the support we need because, one nugget of information from someone could be that key to changing your way of thinking or your neural pathway that you need to do.
So what was the thing that kind of the straw that broke the camel's back? What was it that made you seriously be like, right, I've got to do this now?
I couldn't take any more. I couldn't do any more drugs. I was sitting in a hospital asking for painkillers and diazepams, hypnols, and everything to make me go sleep or to wake me up or to, anything I could get my hands on. And I just realised I couldn't take them. My body said to me, I can't take any more. My brain said to me, I can't take any more.
Had you been able to keep DJing up until this point? Were you, because sometimes with people, they can kind of just keep riding the wave.
Oh no, look, I was a functioning, whatever you want to call it. I could,
Yeah.
but what I'd done is I'd stopped going to gigs because I couldn't be bothered.
Right.
I prefer to stay in my local pub with the lads and get smashed, and then just carry on getting smashed without having to travel 3 or 4 hours up the road, or do 3 or 4 gigs within a night, which was tiring because my body I was beginning to get tired now. So I was like, it'd be cheaper for me to stay here and do, instead of going up the road and having to spend all that money I'm going to earn on gear by staying awake and by going to these places. So I ended up cancelling lots of gigs, which wasn't great. But for me at the time, that's where I was. That's where I was at. So in a way, I don't know, maybe I was minimising my own sort of harm minimisation in a way. Yeah. God. Quite a mad place to be, mate.
So what was your process then of kind of self-care and getting better?
Look, I'm always very grateful for that moment of clarity, because if I didn't have that moment of clarity, I wouldn't be here today, right? I know that. I'm quite aware of that's the case. So I suppose that I was only able to give myself self-care after I'd started dealing with the self-loathing or the self-despair, let's say, because you don't. That's one way of not taking care of yourself, right? Taking loads of drugs and drinking or whatever. There's loads of other ways of not taking care of yourself. The way we eat, the way we don't exercise, the way we think, the way we stress, the way we buy into with because we can make ourselves ill with our stress anyway. We know that.
Yeah.
And what we take in, information-wise, what we absorb, all can be contributed to that. We're humans, so we like to experience stuff that makes us feel good, even for a short space of time, because we're generally tuned into feeling bad on the whole. And I mean, I'm generalising, I shouldn't, but we're kept at a level of sort of just below massive stress by what we read in the papers, what we listen to the news, about what life throws at us. We're generally functioning a little bit of stress. Does that make sense? We need a bit of stress to wake up in the morning, a bit of adrenaline to get us out of bed. But what we do is we generally pick our phones up and then we level out that stress. We release cortisol straight away because we're thinking, and then as opposed to say, what do we get to do tomorrow? We go, what have I got to do today? What have I got to do today? Instead, what do I get to do today? So look, it's about the language we use. It's about information we're fed. But for me, the self-care thing was just stopping doing what I was doing. For that time, for me, that was my self-care. Just getting sitting with my head and sitting with my anxiety, my fear and my stress and my rewiring my brain after I put so much gear in it. I'm lucky to be anywhere near sanity as it is. So my self-care was just not putting myself in those environments. But I did DJ, carried on. I didn't stop DJing. I didn't stop seeing my mates and didn't stop all the other stuff. I white knuckled it, I suppose, in a way.
Did you have, because in my notes I've got that you went into Capio Nightingale Hospital.
Yes.
So did you have kind of accountability partners and things that helped you through that time or anything?
Not really. I mean, there was aftercare groups, there was support networks within that environment. I was told to go to the 12-step fellowship meetings, which I did for a while. CA. I had a sponsor who relapsed not long after I was with him, and went on a bad one again. That was I never did that. You see, I never relapsed. I was adamant, and my decision was so final. There was no danger of happening. But I mean, there's a support network. I tell you who my mentor is to this day, and he was my psychiatrist at that time. He was the consultant psychiatrist to Westminster and Chelsea, and also to the Capio Nightingale, which was like the first real mental hospital for dealing with addictive behaviours in London. His name's Dr. William Shanahan. He's now the consultant head psychiatrist, the whole Priory Group.
Wow.
And he's still my mentor to this day. So he speaks to me for free whenever I need to speak to him, because he said, "You're my star pupil. You always have been. You took so much gear. I never knew how you survived what you did. And yet you're here to this day." He's quoted in my book. And you're here to this day, you're helping people. So he refers people to me who he can't help in that hospital, maybe, or who he thinks maybe do some help outside of that environment.
So in the late 90s then, when you were going through this kind of experience, would you ever talk to people about kind of getting therapy and things? Because it's even up until like a couple of years ago, if you'd say to someone, "I'm having therapy," they'd just go, "Why do you need that? What's that all about?"
I never spoke to anyone really about that stuff back then. Not in the 90s was sort of it was just so unknown about, and not, what is this? You can't even start to me to explain this stuff. It was only like the 2000s for me when I was able mentally, and also to even start venturing out to do this sort of stuff, because I was struggling, because I'd done so much damage to my head that it took me a long, long time to rewire a lot of neural pathways, i.e. around, my fear, my anxiety, my self-worth, I struggled with food a bit. Now I have the tools, and many, many of them, to be able to be aware of anything that goes on like that. But yeah, back then, I would see my therapist, my psychiatrist. I'd see him once every, however it was, every 6 months or so. But he was really my only sort of regular therapy. I've spoken to people intermittently before, but never had a proper. I've never felt. I don't know what it is. He's probably, I think, because he had. I don't know what it is. He was my how do you say? He's my higher power in a way, I suppose, for want of an explanation. Not that I into that necessarily. I mean, we all have our higher power. I think my higher powers or whatever helps us, get through wherever they are. I suppose he's my higher power, and I still speak to him. So it wasn't as I said, it wasn't until late in the 2000s that sort of stuff was starting to be talked about.
Yeah, I mean, it must have been mad, the sort of late 90s, like your kind of level of fame and kind of being in the tabloids and things like that. It must have been really hard to try and rationalize what you've been going through whilst you got that kind of, you've got a lot more noise than most of us at that time.
Yeah, I mean, but you see, all that stuff happened after I'd stopped taking drugs.
Yeah,
all that sort of fame and, I suppose, success, and as you say, the tabloids, and I had my own column in the Daily Star. I had MTV. I was doing TV shows left, right, and centre. All those, I love the 80s shows. I love the 90s shows. I had my own TV on the satellite channel called Blockhouse Brits, on the back of the Brit Awards, obviously. So yeah, I mean, Top of the Pops had a hit record. I mean, more notoriety and fame came from all that stuff.
Yeah.
So and it was never a concern that I would ever go back to the lifestyle, ever. I never ever thought that. I knew that would never happen. So I suppose very grateful for that wonderful part of life, to be a lot of some people go, well, I wish, it's not an aspiration, but to have that fall into your lap type thing. When I wasn't actually aiming for any of that. That wasn't any of my goals in life, to be on TV but I've done that. I've had the experience of everything. I've been very fortunate, I suppose, to say I've been on TV, I've been on Celebrity Big Brother, I went on other reality shows back in the day.
Yeah, I mean, you've hit on a couple of things that I did want to ask about. So obviously, like the Brits is a thing. I was wondering with that if that had kind of any advantages.
Someone said to me after that, "You're a housewife's favourite now."
Yeah.
I mean, the Brits is 23 years ago now, mate. I've been spoken about it so many times. It's just a moment in notoriety, let's say, which, I'm sort of known for a little bit. So it doesn't surprise me back then. It was quite funny. And looking back on it, it is very funny. And, the fact that it took me about 1 minute to make the decision whether I was going to collect this made-up award, spontaneity. Great fun. But, yeah, as you say, incredible.
And the other thing that I noticed that I found really interesting was something that mentioned about part of the reason for wanting to go into Big Brother being to get away from your phone.
I said that.
I read something around that, saying that you kind of wanted a detox from your phone effectively, and because you're quite organised, aren't you, with like when you check your emails and stuff like that now.
You know what? I put that on my emails because it keeps what the idea was that people go, oh, if they read all the way down, go, right, I'll only send email, because I found that we are all consumed by technology, right? And unfortunately, it's not great, right? It's changed us. It's changed our mindsets forever, never to go back. So I think what we've got to do is be mindful of how much we use it and how often we're on it, because without knowing, you get into that, the rabbit hole, or, you're firing neurons all the time. And what that does is just gives you a brain that take you into burnout, and people aren't aware of it. People are just, constantly, where my phone, I need my phone to get, and I just found it back then, that technology was getting really, very, very fast moving. And, like things like YouTube and all that sort of thing, it basically has given people one of the most vital human needs, a need for significance.
Yeah.
Right? So I think back in the day, certain people had to have a voice because people were leaders. Certain people were leaders. People had something to say. Whereas now, anyone can say anything, right? And the thing I find difficult is the thing that people pick on people, and they say the most horrible, deep, hurtful things, which hurt. The power of words is unbelievable, and how that's worked out, how that's become, because you're not actually in pain, but it causes pain. You say hurtful things to people, they get pain from it. It can be, anxiety, fear, whatever it is. So a sound that we make with our voices causes anxiety, pain, and fear. And this is where humanity's going to struggle moving forward a lot, I think. I mean, there's a lot of awareness now, and a lot of people aren't buying into all that. But it's a unless you're mindful about the time we spend on it, what we look at, we will get, And I was aware before. Sorry to rabbit on a bit, Adam. But I was aware about this whole mental. You're right about Big Brother. So maybe at that time I was aware of that stuff. I knew that there was a imminent sort of worldwide mental health pandemic happening anyway, because of this, right? I knew that, and that's why I started this group at the Ministry of Sound. I started my own. I started with a friend of mine called Paul Byrne. We started a group called Tuned Out at the Ministry of Sound, which is now bi-monthly. We had guest speakers. It's a free group. We invite lovely people to come out and share their stories of inspiration and stuff. So I had Gox come and spoke. Last month we had Fat Tony. This month I've got Kevin Bishop, Barry Ashworth from the Dub Pistols. I've had lots of people in the music industry. Mr. C spoke. I've had Jumping Jack Frost. All these people on quests for, bettering themselves have all come and spoke. So I realised I was getting into that whole thing. So I take Facebook off my phone. I'll probably take Instagram off my phone. The only thing I use it for is sharing stuff, gigs and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
And probably when my retreats go on, that sort of thing. But generally, I try not to get immersed in too much of that. I check my emails once a day, twice a day maybe. I go on Instagram every couple of days maybe to just have a look. I suppose I mostly look at cat videos now, and Yeah, honestly, it's true. And, like that sort of nice things, the dodo and all that. So yeah, it's about being mindful about your environment and what you're subjecting yourself to.
So, can you just kind of talk us through your journey? Because now, just to give a bit of context, you do a lot of work with people around coaching, and you've done a load of qualifications over the years. So, that how did you first start that? What was it that made you think, I want to be there for people? I want to, because it's not just like you're mucking about doing this. You've really, really gone in on it.
I mean, I'm attempted to get. I'm toying with the idea of doing the counselling qualification now because I've done some of it already. But I've done a lot of other stuff which enables me, let's say, to work with people on a certain level, which is enough, I think, for now. I'm not as look. I do work with people. People often come to me and say, and I help them. I don't mind that. I think that came to me around the the early 2000s when I started to feel I've learned a lot of stuff about myself and how I react about certain situations and about drugs and drink and blah, blah, blah. I'm ready to help people. People were asking me anyway back then, how can I do it? How can I get off? How can this and the other? And I went to work for a drug service because I thought, I'm going to go volunteer somewhere. Turned out my mate was running the place. She said, look, by all means, come and volunteer. It'd be lovely to have you. I need to put you some training courses because you can't just come in here and talk. It's not like that. So I did my City and Guild, did my MVQs, did my various cognitive behavioural workshops, various motivational interview workshops, wrote essays and stuff. And, I've done more recently, I worked for the Episode Seed Trust, which is, again, another organisation who help people recover from bloodborne viruses, which generally transferred from sharing needles. Did some training courses with them. So yeah, I've sort of I've calmed down a bit, let's say, because it's quite demanding work. It can be quite emotionally draining. So without getting the support behind you, if you're going to do that work, you need to get some supervision. You need to get someone on your side to be able to unload that stuff too.
Yeah.
So I generally help people in a different guise now. I may do my coaching package, offering it again. Again, it's like, how do I feel about that? I generally just don't mind helping people with a bit of stuff if they want me to have a chat to them. I prefer to refer them on, signpost them, have a chat, say I could put you in touch with people who could help you, which I do. And I'm happy doing that.
But that's a great thing to do because with your kind of profile, just being able to make people aware that it's okay and there's people that you can talk to is that, because the thing is with self-work, I don't know if you'll agree, but I feel I've done different bits of self-work over the years, and I think it's really, really powerful. And it's just the starting that's the hard thing. Once you get that little start and you get a bit of benefit from it, then you can really kind of dive in. And there's so many ways you can approach it. There's coaching, there's counseling, there's just a load of books. There's all sorts of things you can do, but it's just having that impetus to actually be ready to look at yourself, because it's scary.
Of course it is. You know what? I spoke to someone earlier. Funny, so you asked me that question. I'll talk about that subject. A friend who's doing a level 5 counselling, and I was saying, like, oh wow, how good's that? Level 3 and level 4 are the ones to get you sort of qualified. You can go up to level counselling 5, which goes a bit more into the cognitive stuff. But everyone says how mental health. Well, look, it's the last thing we look at. It always has been, and now it's the first we need to look at, because we can't function without our minds working right. Okay, so when people have illnesses, you have to have an empathy for them, because it's tough. And when your brain's not working right, we don't work right. The autonomic processes, which go about breathing, seeing, all our senses, all controlled by our brain, right? Our feelings, our emotions, our physical, our mental well-being, if it's all out of whack, because you can't do anything. You're not able to. This is why workplaces are suffering, because of people being stressed out, being people overworked, too many expectations, too many targets to reach, which are unrealistic. This whole thing, and people aren't aware of that. So you put demands on people instead of saying, right, let's see what you're able to do. If yours, and they, so if we don't manage our own, as you say, expectations about our own self work, we'll never get anywhere. And you need to do some. You don't need to. Look, I dived in. I've dived out again. It's called one of my therapists. I say a friend of mine. She calls it analysis paralysis.
Yeah.
So you can overdo it. You get into a rabbit hole of all this reading, all this work. You've got to let it process. You've got to let it set into place, and then you've got to decide what works for you. Because you could read and read and read and read. It overwhelms me because I just go, Jesus. I like to sit down and go, right, let's look at that and work on that episode. But for me, there's a guy called Dr. Joe Dispenza, and his stuff is incredible, right? And for me, it made sense. It was my sort of wow moment, if you get what I'm saying. Why do I do this? Why do I think like this? Why do I have this, tendency to nip into the old anxiety world? And why do I still? And I heard him talk, and I went, fuck, that's me, mate. That's what it is. And that's what helped me to realize that when I start thinking a certain way, I think, all right, I get it. I know what's happening. I also developed an amazing skill, and I don't know, and I say it's amazing because when I tell people, they go, wow, I could feel my thought, the process. I could feel the thought. I could feel it go into my spinal cord. I could feel it go down the back of my spine into my belly, the emotional center, and I could feel it went up in whatever form it was. If it was a negative or positive thought, I could feel that process. So I know when I'm going to get an anxious thought or a negative thought. And that's like gold, really, because it gives me a chance to go, right, this is going to happen. Or I could try and chase the thought before it goes all the way, or, you have an awareness type thing. Yeah.
Once a DJ is brought to you with the support of Vinyl Underground Record Store. Since 1993, VU's been shipping new and used underground house, techno, disco, hip-hop, soul and more worldwide from Northampton in the UK. They're your go-to store for upfront releases, repressed classics and deep digging for undiscovered gems. And they're a great crew to deal with who really care about the music and their customers. To show the support to the Once a DJ community, they're giving you 10% off your next order. Just head to vinylunderground.co.uk and use the code ONCEADJ10 at checkout. You also get free UK delivery on all orders over £100. That's ONCEADJ10 at vinylunderground.co.uk. I wanted to create a product for the listeners to be able to support the show and for the guests as a token of gratitude for being on, so I've teamed up with Sure Shot Shop to create some Once a DJ 45 RPM adapter clamps. These are my weapon of choice as a 45 adapter, as they add stability and grip to aid you in any setup. These are available for £25 each plus flat fee postage from onceadj.bigcartel.com, and if you'd like to see the other models you can buy and also customise, check out sureshotshop.com. Yeah, and it's kind of like, it's about the search, isn't it, and finding the thing that works for you.
Yes, absolutely. You have to, but as you say, there's so much out there, so much you can go and, immerse yourself in, but find the stuff that works for you. Don't be thinking that you have to do so many things. Just find what works for you, because you will get overwhelmed. It's better to be underwhelmed and able to cope with it than being overwhelmed, thinking, oh, can't do it. This is what we do.
Yeah.
It's fear of the unknown. Taking too much on, another, you'll know about that.
Yeah, and all of this stuff equates to physical, doesn't it? It's like if you go, right, I need to lose weight, so you start going to the gym 7 days a week, you start getting a bad knee, you start getting a wonky hip, you're getting burned out, you're getting a bad, doing things in a manageable way, and then just having a week off sometimes if it's too much. It's all about this kind of balance.
Absolutely. Life balance, mate. You've got it. Inner coin, inner phrase.
Yeah. This is all really interesting stuff. Like, I love talking about things like this, and this is why it's great to get you on, because you've kind of done this through your own journey.
Thanks, Walt.
So what does kind of like the week to week life look like at the moment? Because you're doing the Me Soul shows, aren't you?
My soul.
My Soul, beg your pardon.
It's very balanced at the moment. I do my gym 3 times a week. I do other days where I go dipping in the cold sea with my mates. We do that early morning. I get a chance to do most of my stuff in the day. I can do podcasts with people. It's getting more manageable, as you say. And in the winter, I don't like going out so much. Don't mind doing the cold dip in the morning. Then get home, put the fire on, warm up. It's fairly manageable. And, touch wood, I can still DJ once at the weekend. But it gives me time to look at the other stuff I want to do again, like the coaching and writing the program. But again, I've taken some downtime, Adam, in the last few months, just to get myself into a place where I want to find my passion again.
It's a great thing to do. Like, I've spoke to people on this, and I was saying to someone about, like, Eric Clapton won't play guitar for 6 months, or that's maybe a quote from 10, 15, 20 years ago. And it's like, you don't have to do everything all the time. Sometimes taking a step back and working out, it's like with goal setting, isn't it? Like, I did some goal setting exercises at one point, and I had a good friend of mine who was kind of helping me through all this. And it was about, like, saying you want to do something, but, like, is the reason you want to do it true? Like, do you know yourself? Are you being honest with yourself that you want to do this for this reason? Because if you can be absolutely true with yourself about who you are, which is another thing we don't always do, because we think we're someone, or we think we should be someone when we're actually someone else. And if you can get into that and find the right sort of thing that you want to achieve at the right time for the right reason, then that's when these things are a lot easier to do.
Well, I'm a goal mapping practitioner, as you know. So goal mapping is the best goal setting model I've ever seen. And it's not just about, smart goals are orders, right? They're like demands. They're like setting yourself, right, you must do this by this certain time in a realistic, achievable time frame. There's no passion in it. And what you're saying is you've got to find your passion. My passion. So are the goals you're trying to achieve, have they got the right reasons? Are they valuable? Are you passionate about them? Do they have meaning for you, or are you just doing them? So this is what goal mapping allowed you to find out. And it's a great model. And you're right. You can't set goals, and you can't set goals from a negative place anyway. When you're on the back foot of trying to, motivate yourself in bad situations, you start trying to set goals, you'll never achieve them because you won't be motivated the right way. Or you set the goals, the mini goals, to be able to get yourself into that place where you can achieve the bigger ones. But yeah, right. I think it's about finding your passion, downtime, not overwhelming yourself. Give yourself if you're able to do that, obviously, it's not always a luxury that people can do. But if you can take some time from chasing the goals, sit down and say, what matters to me? What really, really matters to me? And am I achieving these goals for the right reasons? You're right. And then if you say to yourself, yes, then you carry on. If you can say to yourself, not really. As you say, the reason we feel like we're other people because we look in comparisons all day long.
100%.
All day long, you're comparing yourself to others. So you're not that wonderful saying, authentic self. How's that even possible when you're looking at as far as be someone else every moment of the day? You're never your authentic self unless you put that down. And then you say, I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and I do it for me, and I do it for no one else, and I'll do it whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. But the sooner you let go of those comparisons and expectations and live where you want to live, then it's very difficult, don't get me wrong. But if you could do that, then you've achieved some sort of authenticity.
Yeah. Amazing. Right, mate. I'm going to let you go now. That's been absolutely fascinating. Really, really good fun. And I hope you've enjoyed it as well.
I always love talking about this stuff, Ed. And, talking to like-minded people is always wonderful because there's always stuff that I was quite impressed by your knowledge as well, mate, and the fact that you've been on a journey, and it's nice to hear that sort of stuff. Obviously, the questions you asked me made sense, and it wasn't just about, I took so much cocaine now I could fucking hardly stand up, so all good.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I want it to be a different experience from the obvious, because it is about, for me, with DJing, it creates so many opportunities. It helps us with a lot of things. Because for me, it was like when my son got to 2, I just kind of like felt a little bit lost. I was like, well, who am I? What am I? And that, I've got so much positive experience and good friends and things from DJing. I was like, I need to kind of get into that a bit again, if I can. So doing this whole podcast is part of that. It's sharing this experience and understanding what boxes it's ticked for different people and things like that. So yeah, always love to talk about these sorts of things myself.
Absolutely, mate. Well done.
Yeah, and what you were saying at the start as well about meditating, about the breath work.
Yeah.
Like I used to meditate a lot, and I say a lot, I used to meditate daily, and in probably a couple of years, there was maybe only 2 times where I felt that utter presence.
Yes.
But wow, when you do it, it's absolutely incredible.
I've only had it a couple of times in my life, really. And that was one of them in Ibiza. And I had the whole spiritual guide thing and everything come and take me up to the mountain, and Indian chief, and, my inner child, my child came together with me as an adult, and my father was there. Fucking unbelievable.
Amazing.
And, walking to the top of this mountain with holding each other's hands and then getting there and dancing around the fire and stars and moons and bloody hell, mate, the tribe come together type thing,
Yeah.
But as you say, it's those moments are very rare. If you can get them, then it's doable.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, yeah, I'll let you get going, mate, and I'll speak to you soon.
All right, listen, you take care, mate. It's lovely talking to you. Let me know when you're going to put it out.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Once a DJ. If you'd like to support the show, then head to onceadj.com/support to find out how you can help. If you'd like to get in touch with any feedback or suggestions, email onceadjpodcast@gmail.com. Once a DJ is produced by the good people at Remote Control. If you'd like to find out more about working with them, head to remote-ctrl.co.uk.
That was nice.